Let's get to this question, how to handle your teenager. I mean, parents, educators, mentors have been thinking about this question for so long. How do I handle this teen that is rambunctious, that doesn't listen to me, that doesn't focus in? I can't get their attention. Listen, after over a decade of me working with teens, I have finally come up with the conclusion to this answer that you're looking for. And the most successful people who work with teenagers also come with this question. I'm going to give you the answer right now. The answer to how to handle your teenager. You don't.
Oh, come on, dude.
Oh my gosh, another clickbait. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Listen, I'm telling you right now, this answer not only will give you peace of mind, but this will be one of the best ways for you to reframe and reshape the way you think about these years that your teenager is going through right now. This single advice has helped me as a mentor, as an educator, as someone who's worked with youth and youth detention facilities in multiple aspects, even as a youth pastor. This very answer to your question, I know you're looking for a legitimate answer, and we're gonna get to that as soon as you hear my story on this concept. But I want you to think about this real quick before I get to the story. Why do you use the term handle when it comes to teenagers? Are they some sort of business account or a management account that you're supposed to handle when you deal with people in that sense? The very definition of handle is to manage or to operate something or to someone. It is to manipulate or control a situation. Are teens supposed to be operated or managed or manipulated? The whole concept here is for you not to handle your teens. I think that that very framework that you have of handling them actually messes the way that you deal with them as a human being. And so I want you to start thinking about it this way. How do I love my teenager even in the most difficult of situations? Let's get to the story. I was working as a campus administrator, campus leader, whatever you want to use. As typical, the day starts and I tell everyone, hey, yo, it's time to get into your classrooms. Let's get to work. It's time to have a wonderful, studious day. Let's get to it. But one of my students didn't really feel it. So they said, nah, I'm good. I said, look, I understand you may be feeling a certain way right now, but what I need you to do is to get into your classroom so we can get to work. This is not up to debate. It's time for us to get to class. That student proceeded to just go, and I was just like, oh my gosh. In the comments below, how would you handle that situation? If you're a parent, if you're an educator, if you're a mentor, whatever the case may be, how would you handle a situation of a teenager cursing you out in front of everybody? Let me tell you what I did. So I told the teen, I said, look, grab your bags. I need you to go out the front door. They looked at me and said, for real? You're going to kick me out? I said, it's time for you to go out the front door. No discussion. Get your bag, let's go. You could see they were frustrated, like really mad, but you could also see the hint of sadness because we had a really good rapport overall. The teen walks out the front door and I close the door and I make sure to yell, wait! And they turn around. It's all a part of my master plan. And I open the door and like a butler, opens the door to the homeowner who's coming in. I literally went like this and I bowed down and I was like, we're going to start this day over again. And I want you to walk in with a better attitude. Let's do this one more time. And I said, hello. And I said the person's name. I said, how are you doing today? Let's start this day over. What kind of reaction do you think I got? That teen just fell into tears. Multiple reasons why I'm assuming, because number one, how many people are willing to work with them, especially when they're at their worst, right? And we're going to talk about that later in this video. But the other thing was, man, they were going through such a hard time throughout the week They had such a hard morning with their parent that very morning, and that translated to them acting out that way in front of everyone. Right? We're talking about the iceberg effect, what you see, but what you actually don't see, right? We're going to talk about that in another video as well. But that was huge. They saw someone who was willing to start over with them. I could have been in my feelings, I could have been in my ego and said, you know what, let me get mad with you. I could have acted like this guy right now.
Because you're pulling off, you destructive.
But that's not the response, right? That's not the way we're supposed to act. We can try to handle the situation or try to put them into this box. This is how we're supposed to be with teenagers, whatever the case may be. But I said to myself, this teen needs major love right now. And how can I show that in the worst of situations? And so we have to ask ourselves that question. How do I take care, or how do I handle a situation, right? Not the how do I handle a teenager. How do I handle the situation is much different than handling a teenager. That teen needs love. They need grace. They need forgiveness, right? And so in dealing with that, was I able to overall not only just show the teen love, but also show every other student and the other staff members that I was working with how we can deal with certain situations. So let me get to the exact point as to how you do this, right? How are you able to handle situations or to love your teen, either in your home or in your classroom, whatever the case may be, as an organization or you're mentoring? How do you deal with those difficult situations when your teen is acting out and you don't know what to necessarily do at that very moment? How do you handle those situations and love on your teen? The answer is very simple. And it begins before the situation starts. It begins way before that situation explodes. You see, it starts when you first get into contact with them, the rapport that you build, right? We're talking about this very clear, simple concept. It's called the pouring in concept. Very simply put, let's say this is your teenager. Guess what? The best, most effective way for me to be able to speak to this teenager is for me to first pour into that teen. What am I pouring in? I'm pouring in knowledge. I'm pouring in life experience. I'm pouring in my energy. I'm pouring in my time. I'm pouring in my love, right? I'm pouring in wisdom. All of that in order for this teen to grow because they know I have given my time and effort for them to grow as a person. And so guess what? Situation happens, something bad happens. Let's say like one of my students, they explode. Guess what? I needed to rein that situation in. There were a lot of times where I had to pour in or pour out of those students. And I'm gonna teach you exactly what this is right now. Because sometimes you got to pour out. And what does pouring out mean? It just means you're gonna be a little tough. Maybe it's that tough love. You have to be a little bit more assertive in the situation. But guess what? They're going to be willing to listen to you in those situations because of the amount that you've already poured in. And so when you pour out, right? You pour out, but you poured out not much. You did enough in order for them to have to listen. You did enough to grab their attention. But the greatest thing, and I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the biggest lesson, is that when you pour out of that student, right, the big situation happened, you have to be a little bit more assertive. You have to use that real tone of voice. But you've been pouring into the student this whole time, or that teenager in your home. Guess what? You pour right back in. You pour right back into their life, right? Because when you do that, what you do and what you're showing is that even in those tough situations, I'm willing to love you through the good and the bad. And you may be asking yourself right now, man, you know what? You're a parent and you're saying, I've poured into my kid all the time. I hope you understand this concept. This concept is very simple. Love languages. We talk about love languages between spouses and partners, but guess what? Your teenager also has love languages. It could be quality time. It could be acts of service. Ultimately, you have to know how they need to be loved. And so it's so important for you to understand how they are loved and how their needs are because guess what? You can't love them the same way that they were when they were 5 years old, when they're 15. They have different needs. They're going through different situations. They're going through different body changes, right? Mental processes. And so the way that you approach a teen or a situation in those times are much different than when they were 5, 7 years old. It's like learning them over and over again. But you have to be willing to put in the time and effort. And you might be saying to yourself, man, you know what? I have a 9 to 5 job. I have X, Y, and Z. This is going on in my life. And so you have to ask yourself now, if so much of your time is being put to your job, and I'm not saying to quit your job now, but if so much of your time is being put to all these different places, who else is pouring into your student? Who else is pouring into your team? That means they're listening to people 10, maybe even 12 hours out of the day, and they haven't heard from you much. We have to ask ourselves those kinds of questions because those will help us to be more deliberate and intentional in how we work with teenagers. And so at your home, man, you're saying to yourself, how can I spend intentional, deliberate time with my teenager so they know that I'm pouring into them as much as they know that I love them, right? We don't just say that we love you, we got to show that we love you. As for educators who are in the classroom, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know it's hard, especially when you have so many students that you're working with. But guess what? In my personal experience as a professional working with teens, as well as when I was a student and when I was a mentee, the best people who I worked with are those who are willing to go outside of script sometimes and not just focusing on the lesson book, but also teach me life lessons, right? So, what can you give? What can you pour into that teen that's just a little bit more than the average teacher would ever give, right? And so it's so important to give just that little tad bit more. Those are the things that will hold them and leaves an impression in their mind. So this pour in method is crucial. When I tell you this is the answer to your question, because the amount that you pour in before these situations happen is the amount that you're going to be able to pour out, right? When the situations do happen, when those tough conversations need to happen, when you need their attention and you're trying to grasp them in those moments, you had to have already in the past poured in because they know now when you have to be a little chippy with them, guess what? They know you love them so much. They know you're going to pour right back into them. They know that no matter the situation, no matter how hard it gets, you're still willing to be there with them. I'm telling you right now, this has shaped the way that I've dealt with youth. It has helped me to build strong relationships with them. I mean, I get phone calls, I still get text messages. And it's not because I'm anything special. I didn't do anything so magnificent, at least to me. But I was just willing to give my time. And I'm talking about real intentional, deliberate time and effort to show them that I care and I'm with them and we pour into you whatever way that I can. I'm really hoping we're moving away from this concept of handling my team. Look, they're not a door handle to handle, they're not a business for you to handle, they're not some sort of account. They're human beings. They are people that need your attention, they need your time, they need your love, they need your energy. And they listen. I'm telling you right now, teens really do listen. As hard headed as some of them may be, they listen. But they will listen, especially to those who they feel and understand truly love them. And look, parents, I know this may be hard for you to listen to because you think you're saying to yourself, I've already done so much. Look, they're at a different stage. They're at a different level in their lives and they need something more from you. They need a little something different from you right now. And how can you be deliberate in your methods of pouring into your teenager today? I'm gonna be honest with you. Look, this doesn't even work all the time, right? There are times it doesn't matter how much you have done. There's still gonna be that type of aggression. There's still gonna be contention between you and your teenager. That happens. This is life. You're not gonna get it all right all the time. I know I haven't. Once again, it's all about the deliberate effort that you put in, right? You pour into these kids, you pour into these youth. They need to know that there's someone there who truly does care. And so I leave you with this. Pour into them. Deliberate effort, time, activity, life, right? Knowledge, wisdom. We're talking about concise, deliberate intentionality. We're not just talking about, hey, how was your day at school? I hope you're doing okay. A quick text message here and there. We're talking about real deliberate effort, right? Especially as a parent, as educators, we're talking about giving more, right, than just what is on the lesson plan. Giving a little bit more to these kids so they know, oh man, that teacher, she really does care, or he really does care about me in a different way, right? Not just, oh, getting that paycheck. And trust me, these kids know who's there just to get a paycheck or not. Guys, let's be responsible. Let's be focused in, and let's help these youth elevate, right? Because as we elevate, we'll also be able to elevate them. We can't keep saying youth these days, oh, these kids these days are crazy, without putting the responsibility on parents who taught these kids, or educators who taught these kids, or organizations who taught these kids. We have to take responsibility for what is going on with this youth and this generation. We have to be willing to be that village, to put in the time and the effort to see the growth in our generations. And so let's be responsible. Let's pour in. I'm telling you right now, if you haven't thought about this, this is the method for you to use. Pour in. Let them know that you are here for them. Go above and beyond. Go above and beyond, because these kids need your love. They need your attention. They need to know you care no matter what they've done. Once again, as we are able to help them, we're going to be able to see a better society. So let's elevate, and let's see these youth elevate too. This channel is here specifically for this purpose: help youth to grow, to elevate, to be empowered. So on this channel, it's going to be so important for us not to just talk to youth, but to also talk with those who have youth in their homes, or in their schools, or in their organizations, right? Because the better you are, the better equipped you'll be to help them.